Hi friends, I'm so glad you're with me today. I'm going to be doing a shave actually on location. As you can see, I am not in my usual shave den. I am visiting my son who lives in the greater St. Louis area, but we actually are in the Washington, Missouri area, home of Missouri Meerschaum corncob pipes, among other things, and staying at a friend's home who graciously welcomes us to be here rather than at a hotel. So I am here with my kiddo, and my friend and her kids just left. So it was finally time to quieten down a little bit and be able to have a shave. Today I'm going to be using CBL's Fusion base, which is non-tallow, and it is scented with Baccarat Rouge 540, which, as you already know, is one of my favorite fragrances, and Chris did a fantastic job putting that soap together for me, and I really appreciate that. Of course, I always start with some Proraso white, because my beard is just coarse and it makes things easier for me, and more importantly, more comfortable, actually. So I'm going to get started. I hope, despite all the goings on in the world, that you are having an emotionally stable week and that things are generally ticking along well for you. I know it's very easy for us to get caught up in the problems of the day, and that's okay too. But I hope that you're finding some time away from the television or computer or phone, that you are engaging in things that are mentally and emotionally healthy to help you decompress and to help reset some of that emotional energy and angst, and that you are turning it into something healthy for yourself and for those who love and care about you. I am trying to do that. I certainly have my moments. I am not 100% successful, and that doesn't make me a failure. That just means I'm human, and it's okay to be what we are. I'm human, and I do human stuff. I have human emotions, and I don't fault myself for it. I try to recognize what it is, honor it, and give it some space, and then try to heal or recover from it and go on. All right. So I love, by the way, I'm not sponsored by Menards, obviously, but I love this coffee mug that my friend has, and so I decided to use it for my mug for my brush. As you know, I always use a bore. This is an Omega 48. They call it a Pro. Why? I'm not sure. And I've told you before that this soap, because it has such a high fragrance concentration, is really quite soft. And so rather than doing this in the usual way, I typically either take a knife. This time, quite honestly, I'm just going to reach my finger in. I don't know, it's mine. I'm the one that uses it. It's fine. And I put that sort of down in the middle of the brush and kind of push it into the center where the knot really comes together. Then I can wipe the rest of that little bit that's on my finger on the outside. Then I dip my brush in that water again and just start really working to incorporate that lather and soap into the bristles and sort of get a head of lather going on the tips of the brush. And then when I feel I've got something decent started, you know the routine. Go start right in. I absolutely love this soap, and I typically am have been a tallow soap user, but this fusion base that Chris has come up with is really fantastic, and I like it a lot. It really, really works well with my skin, just in terms of overall glide and cushion for the shave, and it leaves my skin feeling good after the fact too, without being overly oily or causing breakouts and other skin issues. Try to get a nice layer going. I can tell it's a little dry, so I'll put some more water on it here in just a minute. Yeah, it's too dry. So I'll open it up just a little bit. The thing I've learned about soaps generally, which probably most, if not all of you already know, is that a little tiny amount of water goes a long way, and you can go from opening a soap up just a little bit to messy slop in a hurry. And it only takes a few drops more than you had intended to do that. So I try to be very careful about that. It's unusual for me to wait until a Sunday to shave. However, the week, with all of its events, both personally in my life and things going on in my businesses and things going on in the nation, shaving definitely got pushed to the side, and that's okay. And then I drove from the greater Chattanooga area to St. Louis on Friday. And so really, this is the first sort of quiet moment I've had to be able to sit down and shave. And shaving is such a great way, at least for me, is a great way to decompress. You see that hand right there playing with something. That's my kiddo. He is in the kitchen. Oh, there he is. You can stick your head in.
Hey guys.
That's my son Foster. He is not of shaving age yet, but we're getting him. So there he is. Getting him started with good habits and just being around sort of what traditional men's shaving is, and maybe when he gets to a place where shaving is a part of his world, he will want to use a straight razor, or maybe he'll want a double-edged. I don't know. Don't know what he'll want. Whatever he wants, I will support. But Foster is certainly his own person. But as it turns out, we actually share a lot of interests. And so he's sort of enjoys photography, and he's been around my smoking pipes and stuff from the time he was time he was born. He loves wild animals and going camping. He's asked for a camera, so kind of excited about that. And my partner and I are going to be getting him a camera to use for our family trip to Yellowstone in 2026. We go once a year as a family, and then I also am going back in December to photograph the wildlife that does not hibernate, to photograph them in their winter coat and the winter landscape at Yellowstone, which is in fact quite different than the spring and summer and fall landscape. Yellowstone, because of where it lays and because of the topography, it gets very heavy snowfall typically every year, and so the landscape in Lamar Valley and places like that are still open during the winter look very, very different than they do during the year. And then hopefully after going in the winter and getting shots, I will be able to put together and publish a book that I'm calling Diary of a Yellowstone Year. And it does just what it says, covering the landscape and the animals in their spring, summer, fall, and winter coats. Of course, the race for and the struggle for survival in the winter is a much different operation than it is in spring and summer. Many animals, of course, do not make it because of the harshness and length of the winter. I believe today is the 14th of September, and I noted that some of Yellowstone and outside the northeastern gate up toward Cook City and the Beartooth Highway have already gotten some heavy snowfall. Now, of course, at a really high elevation in a alpine and subalpine region, it's not uncommon for that to happen. But fall is definitely setting in. We are way more than a month into fall rut for bison. In fact, rut is probably beginning to wind down some. Elk rut is winding up at this point.
By the way, Dad, just going back to that, what you said, we're talking about the winter in Yellowstone.
Yeah.
Just a fun fact that Yellowstone can get up to almost 4 to 5 feet of snow, and only about a couple thousand either bison or elk either may survive.
Yeah, it's not uncommon in harsh winters to lose several hundred bison. The winters are interesting, and not everybody is equipped, unfortunately, to make it, and that's just part of it.
Another fun fact, with the winter conditions,
Mm-hmm.
The coldest weather ever recorded in winter for Yellowstone was down to about negative 60 to 70 degrees.
Which is goofy cold. You know, you go to Yellowstone in winter, and you are dealing with, you know, Arctic conditions and regular sort of thermals and that sort of stuff won't work. You really have to have specialized equipment if you are going to stay out in that weather very long at all. You don't want to run the risk of frostbite, and of course, you know, when you have temperatures that are that cold, and the way the wind whips down through Lamar Valley,
it just goes right through you.
yeah. Well, and also there's nowhere out there to really shield or shelter yourself. When they call it the American Serengeti, they are correct in more than one way. But anyway, I am looking forward to being there, and while December does see very cold temperatures and snowfall, it is not usually as sort of forbidding and bitter in December as it is in January, February. It, of course, can differ year to year, and because it was that way one year doesn't mean it's going to be that way the next year. But that's, I think, averages out. If you really look at the temperature averages and snowfall averages over time, December, statistically speaking, is not typically as cold as those other months. Although, again, it's relatively speaking for somebody who comes from the deep south, where sometimes winters don't get below 40, you know, facing 10 or 15 below, and wind howling is still nearly forbiddingly cold. All right, third pass. A little water. I like to use my fingers, of course, to really give the bristles some backbone. And you don't have to do that quite as much with a boar, of course, as you would with a badger hair. And I actually love just the tiniest bit of scritch that I get with my boar as opposed to a badger, and I guess that's why I just stick with this one, is because I just like it so much. I like the way it feels. I like the way it releases lather onto your face. I just really, really enjoy this brush. And as it turns out, of course, these are significantly less expensive than a nice badger knot, and I'm not suggesting that one should buy a brush based on price, unless that's the most critical factor to you. For me, it was more about performance to cost, and these brushes just perform so well. That's really the story. Okay. So I'll go the other way now. little more noise on that side. This side of my neck, the hair growth is just odd. Well, the hair growth on my neck generally is odd. Remember, it grows from here around here, and this is against the grain, but there is a little more whirl here than there is on this side. This side is pretty much straight across. All right, let's be careful here. Again, this is a Dorko. I always giggle when I say that name, and I realize that's juvenile, but the name Dorko just giggles me. All right. Little flat blading cleanup to be done there. Otherwise, really nothing to be done. By the way, I have another Dorko exactly like this one. It is literally a twin. They are from they're from the 70s. It's Dorko Premier and a number 43. And I have another one exactly like it that is for sale. If you are looking for a great razor, it shaves every bit as well as my Philharmonica, and I will put a J-knot edge on it for you if you would like. And it is terrifically reasonably priced. If you have questions about it or would like to know more about it, you can send me a DM. I'll be happy to talk to you about it. Okay, let's put this last bit on, do my flat blading, and get cleaned up. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with that other Dorko. Nothing at all. It literally is exactly the same. I just don't need two. That's the long and short of it. Is I just don't need two of them. All right. Let's flat blade these whorls, shall we? Done. Excellent. All right, let me get some of this off my face, and I will be right back. All right, so the alum is off, and I am ready to put on my, I just brought my Adidas aftershave with me. I don't use it a great deal anymore, but it's good for travel, and so I'm going to throw that on. Sorry, I've been singing all day. What is it? Manon di Massanella, Carmen de Bizet, fra diavolo, Hernani, Puritani, Vespri Siciliani. It's from Mancini, called In un vecchio palco della Scala. It's about an old box at La Scala. It talks about an appointment at the buffet and the stage and the lights and the women and their décolletage, and it's a great little tune. Better than the crap I could be singing. I was thinking Lucia de Lammermoor, and while I enjoyed singing Edgardo, I don't know that singing about tombs of my ancestors and being covered over with dirt and don't come here and mourn me when I'm dead, given the weak the week's emotional weight, might not be the best thing to do. So we'll see. Vesti la Juba. Probably. I don't want that one either. All right. Time to put on fragrance, and I will be ready to go out the door. I appreciate you joining me again. I hope that you will find time for your mental and emotional health. I hope you'll decompress, be ready to start the week tomorrow, and I wish you all the very best. I'm so glad you came to join me, and I hope to see you again in the coming week. Bye.